A lot of people, have come with strong opinions about VDM. And the funny thing about VDM is that he doesn't have people who are most times indifferent about him. He only has people who have strong opinions of him, either strong opinions of love or strong opinions of hate.
VeryDarkMan in the do man. What is I know I will come out here.
How would you feel when someone that is your child's range age will come and be telling you are not smart?
You set your ring light, begin to talk all this nonsense about me, and you expect me to sit down?
The people who love VDM insist that VDM is important and an integral part of society. The people who do not like VDM insist that he's nothing but a nuisance. Now, I have my own personal opinions, but I have come to try to do some sort of objective research about VDM to know, do we really need VDM? Is he a hero to society or is he a cancer to society? Now, VDM from Edo State, was raised in Kaduna. All right. Now, I do know that, when I was doing my research, he was brought up by his father and mom, but I think his father left his mother for some reason after a while. Okay, so that means that at the very least, while he was growing up, he suffered father abandonment issues. Now, when you research, you realize that one of the consequences of not growing up with a father is that you're going to have to deal with things like anger issues, things like crime, most likely not, conclusively, but most likely things like crime. You're most likely going to be engaged in crime. You're most likely going to have anger issues. You're most likely going to feel abandoned and all of these things. Now, when you feel abandoned, you are going to need to crave attention. Sometimes it plays out differently for different people. You're going to want to feel the need to crave attention, to always want to be the center of attention and all of those things. Okay, your anger issues can lead you to committing horrible things that put you in prison. Now, we can see from the life of VDM, okay, from his own testimony, the fact that he would say things like he was involved in stealing, he was involved in this, he was involved in that, right? And some of these things are indicative of some of the petty crime that he had to engage in just to survive. Over time, we saw VDM rise to prominence. At least I first heard of VDM. I think I was hearing of him small, but I think his big break was during the Jenny Glow saga. Now, Jenny Glow was somebody who was selling, I think, cosmetic products, and one of her fans or customers bought her product, and I think it totally damaged her face. So I think either the lady's family was trying to speak up or something, all right? And I think Jenny Glow tried to arrest that person just to shut the person up, okay? So VDM came and fought against it, shed more light on it, and I think her business had to die down because of the bad reviews and everything. All right, I don't know if NAFDAC had to step in at some point in time, but I know that it ushered some sort of move that enabled NAFDAC to take better initiative against all of these fake cosmetic products. So at the very least, we can see that VDM helps to save some people from things like skin cancer and all of those things. Okay, we saw VDM attack other issues, and do so very well. So for instance now, the issue with the senator, where he slapped an Uber driver, I think this was more recent, about last year, when the senator was threatening to deal with somebody, we saw VDM step in and fight so much that a political figure had to apologize. That was very commendable. That was extremely commendable. Now, this just simply means that at the very least, VDM is a very stubborn person that would never back down or never give up in a fight. And we can see, how he has been very commendable. We can see how people have tried to buy his loyalty. So for instance now, Nedu tried so much to get him on his podcast, but VDM kept on refusing, finding ways to refuse. Even when being offered a car, even when being offered money, VDM refused. We can see how Tunde Ednut was part of the people who were always posting VDM, trying to help him get more visibility. And when Tunde Ednut asked him to do something that made him feel like he has to compromise, regardless of the help Tunde Ednut had provided in the past, VDM still refused. So at the very least, he's not willing to be bought. And this is very important because when we look at the lives of people who have been activists, we look at people like Mahatma Gandhi, you look at people like Martin Luther King Jr., you look at people like Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, people who were very instrumental. You realize that all of these people had something in common. They didn't care about wealth, that's money, they didn't care about the status, they didn't care about anything. In fact, for Martin Luther King Jr., in many occasions, the life of his family members were threatened, but he didn't back down. That is one crucial thing that VDM displays. In times past, we've had celebrities in Nigeria or famous people or whoever who served as activists, but tried to do their activism while also trying to protect their wealth, their financial status, and all of these things. Now, VDM has proven to not care. So at the very least, it shows that he has an integral part of being an activist that could be instrumental to the growth and the beauty of Nigeria. We've seen him attack, people at different levels. Should I go on with Prophet Jeremiah and how he called him outrightly out, or how he called him out for selling products that were meant to be given freely? Okay, you said that your products are miraculous. Why are you selling it? That's not the biblical way of doing things. In fact, we see that when somebody wanted to buy God's power, I think it was Paul that threatened to strike the person with dumbness. Now, however, I do have some reservations about VDM before I come to my conclusion, if he's needed for society. And some of my reservations are: number one, we saw that in his fight with Iyabo Ojo, right? I think it was the whole Mohbad issue that led to that, and then the series of back and forth, right? We saw how low VDM got. Now, what do I mean? It's one thing to have an attack, to attack somebody, but don't extend and move to the family members. So for instance, like Iyabo Ojo, I think, said something along the lines of, talking about his mother, which I didn't think was right, but that's what she did. But guess what? Iyabo Ojo is not the one who fights against bullying and injustice. You are the one that said you hate bullying and injustice. So him trying to respond and also involve Iyabo Ojo's daughter, saying that Iyabo Ojo pimps her daughter without any clear evidence, was just wrong. Again, people will say, but Iyabo Ojo said this. Like, sit down and think. Iyabo Ojo never claimed to be the crusader for truth and justice. He did. So that means that by virtue of that, he has held himself to a higher ground than her. And such, he should not stoop so low. Because if he's going to stoop low when certain conditions are met, are broken on his own conditions, then what should stop other people from bullying and oppressing others on their own conditions? So you see how we cannot bring it on a relative scale. In the case of Mercy Chinwo, we've seen how biased he has been. So for instance now, during the Mercy Chinwo's case, I think there were some things that her manager told her in confidence, ECT told her in confidence, that she had to, speak out on when she was defending herself or something. And I saw VDM outrightly, criticize her for saying things that that was shared in private, in public, just in a bid to defend herself or to win the battle. Called out and said, it shows the kind of person you are. Guess what? After a week or two later that he said that thing, the whole issue with Nedu came out. And here was he also saying the things that Nedu told him in confidence in order to win a battle. So it feels like his own righteousness is valid, but other people's righteousness is invalid. So what I mean is, when you're trying to justify a certain bad action, his own is valid, but other people's own are not valid. So we can see a judge, a jury, and an executioner, somebody who believes in his own righteousness. In the case of Lilsmart, I think there was a whole issue with him and Lilsmart, and I think he was trying to help Lilsmart get justice for something or something like that. And then I think Lilsmart collected money, did not give back. And we can hear him threatening Lilsmart, saying things like, I will make you disappear. And that just led me to thinking that if you have more power, how much will you truly do? I mean, if he knew that call was being recorded, I don't think he would have said that. And so these are some of the things that we need to watch out for. Because when you put everything that I have put into perspective, so for instance now, besides the fact that he has showed clear signs of bias sometimes, besides the fact that he has gone low to bully other people when he felt that the conditions were right, okay? The fact that, and also the fact that, he likes to be at the center of every controversy. So for instance now, in the case with Mohbad, where, to be very honest, he did a good work in Mohbad's case, at least at the very beginning, where, the whole issue started and everyone was pointing fingers and arm, and he said, no, come back and think. It was a painful truth, but it was a real truth. But in a case whereby he started dragging Mohbad's widow, see, if I have died and you came to fight for me and you're dragging my wife, try to ascertain the paternity of my child. What that means is, number one, even if the child is mine and you're dragging it, I don't care if you're fighting for my justice, I'll have an issue with you, even in my death. Number two, even if the child is not mine and you're shedding more light on that than the fact of, the present matter, I'll still have an issue with you, because guess what? It's still my name that is being tarnished if the child is not mine, okay? But we've seen that even over time, Mohbad's widow has come to say things like, it's the father that is, delaying, and let's assume that that is true. But that is the father that is delaying because why? The father is still looking for the spotlight, still looking for maybe gist or talk or attention. But he still refused to back down even at that. That shows something. That gives grandiose narcissistic vibes. And what's that? That just simply means that you believe so much in your own righteousness, just as we've seen in the previous examples. You believe so much in your own righteousness, your own justice. You want to be at the center of attention of every controversy. You believe that you're so important. And this leads me back to my foundational point. A person who has been abandoned by their father suffers from, there was a word I used. The person basically suffers from attention. So the person would want to try as much as possible to be relevant, to be at the center of things. Now, I'm not doubting his passion for activism. I am not at all. I think that he genuinely hates to be oppressed, and he genuinely hates oppression against other people. However, there's a tendency for every human being to find an expression of their insecurity in something that they are greatly passionate about. Let's say, for instance, I feel like I am not adequate enough, but guess what? I love to speak. This just simply means that whenever I try to speak, I'm going to find so much of my validation in what I do. And so for somebody who suffers from attention, who wasn't given the adequate love and attention from a father that he would have wanted, it's normal to see that he would try to find validation, attention, and express his narcissistic vibes in what he's so passionate about, which is activism. It's very important to note this, that when Izzy and Mercy Chinwo had their issues, we saw him being very biased. And I'm coming somewhere with this. We saw him being very biased with Mercy Chinwo. With Izzy. I mean, he pointed out Mercy Chinwo's flaws, which I think she should have had. Pointed out her flaws, but didn't bring a balanced perspective into Izzy. And you might give the argument that if other people were talking about Izzy, so you wanted to now shed light on Mercy Chinwo. No. You have to be if you want to say that you're fighting for a moral cause, that in every analysis and judgment you bring, you must be as objective as possible. I think he has been very biased in that case. Considering the fact that not just Mercy Chinwo, but a lot of other people came out who has worked with Izzy, came out to speak badly against him. So that means that there's definitely a smoke somewhere. There's definitely a skeleton somewhere. And I think that the reason why he did this is because he loves the underdog mentality. Now, what does this mean? In every case that he has taken, he clearly loves to side with the underdog, which can be a bias to the pursuit of truth sometimes. He clearly tries to show a bias to the underdog. So in the case of Mercy Chinwo and Izzy wasn't an underdog because of finances, but because Mercy Chinwo had the hearts of other people and Izzy was being criticized out of popularity. So he's the kind of person that if everybody are going this way, is going this way, he will say, okay, what's happening on this other side? Let me support the underdog and show that I can win with the underdog. That's some narcissistic vibe over there. Because you want to show that, so it's not really about the case at large, it's about okay, how can I make this person win and show that yes, it is me? So there is something to consider there. Now, the conclusion is this: VDM has his good sides. Okay, VDM he's doing a lot in terms of social justice. In fact, we can see it, in his influence is growing. He's getting loyal supporters, loyal followers. And if there's anything I know about people who grow to become impactful to society, is that they always have cult-like followings. They always have cult-like followings. In fact, Martin Luther King Jr., who propagated peace a lot, the day he died, there was violence among his supporters. So, it must always, we've seen a growing cult-like following, that is followers, loyal fan base, that have been willing to follow him to the extreme end. And it just keeps growing. So much that even when he has done something obviously wrong, and that's how you know you have a cult-like following, when you've done something obviously wrong, people are still defending you. Just like people will defend their pastors when they've done something wrong, because they are blind, they're not ready to accept the truth that their leader is a flawed one. So in that, we've seen his impact growing. And I strongly believe that impact would in some way cause some sort of revolution. I do think so. So the question is this: we've seen his good sides, we've seen his work for activism, we've seen his growing up for influence, we've seen how mad he can be, and madness is needed to work with a mad country. So we've seen how, he needs to be the way he is. But we've also seen his bad side. We've seen the fact that he can be known to bully other people. He can be known to be biased towards the underdog in his pursuit for truth. It might be very difficult for him to say no. We've seen him display hero complex and grandiose narcissism. We've seen him display all of these things. We've seen him bully other people. Is VDM important to society? And my conclusion is this: I think he is. I think VDM is more like a pain in your shoe, like a pain in your leg that you need to work with. So think about VDM this way. VDM is a necessary evil. He's somebody that you need to get things done. Even though you don't necessarily think filth comes in the form of your conventional role model. That is actually what I think. Now, personally, I don't have strong opinions towards him. That is when I say strong opinions, I mean I don't have great love for him. But I do think he's necessary. I do think that he's capable of impacting change. And I do think that he's actually going to impact change. That is, if he's not killed soon enough. But I do think he's actually going to impact change. That's my conclusion on VDM. But I understand that you guys might have differences. If you're a cult-like follower of VDM, you might want to attack me for some of the things I've said about him. Okay, and that's totally fine. If you are, if you hate VDM, you might want to disagree on some of the things I've said. But let me know your opinions in the comment section. Do well to like, share, comment, and subscribe. But I'm more interested in your comments, and I'll be quick to respond your opinions and your thoughts. Thank you so much for your time. See you next week. Bye.